This is not an all-share meeting. Rather, it is a question and answer for Paul H. take on the 12 steps. For details on all Paul's events, his story, under arrest, books, t-shirts, and past videos, check out his website, zenbitchslap.com. So today we're going to read, Paul, on page 53, middle of the page. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he's nothing. God either is or he isn't. What is our choice to be? Arrived at this point, we are squarely confronted with the question of faith. We couldn't duck the issue. Some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason toward the desired shore of faith. The outlines of the promise of a new land had brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Friendly hands stretched out in welcome. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far, but somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we'd been leaning too heavily on reason that last mile, and we did not like to lose our support. That was natural. But let us think a little more closely. Without knowing it, had we not been brought here by a certain kind of faith? Over to you, buddy.
Oh, all right, Paul, alcoholic. Well, you could say the same thing for now. We were brought here by a certain kind of faith. Yeah, a faith in sobriety and a power that put us into that condition. And yeah. So, yeah, this is a, I look at things now more just than mind, big mind. And so I think, like they talk about forces in nature, there's gravity, and then there's, I guess, dark matter or something like that. And there's these energies, and I would say faith is one of those energies. Yeah. And as Jesus Christ really emphasized, everything was done according to your belief, or it's your faith that allowed this to occur and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's not like we need faith. It just, maybe we need the faith to be redistributed or redirected. Yeah. Maybe we are an example of faith. We don't have faith really, but we are an example of faith. So many people's condition today is an example of misplaced faith, let's say. So faith in an unreliable system. Yeah. Like it says in the big book about the fear. Why are we in so much fear today? Isn't it because we've been relying on self? Yes. So what's that but faith? Faith in self. So how does faith in self look like? You can't just go faith in self, because all these things are activities. Yeah. The frozen statement of it doesn't capture it. Yeah. There's an activity, which is the faith in the thoughts going on throughout our day, and then the narrative that we're hearing all day and listening to. There's a faith in that. There's a faith that believes something that hasn't happened will be happening, to the point that it overrides what's happening. Yeah. That could only be done by faith. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if you could see that things here are what they are to us, yeah, I would say that's a pretty good description of what dreaming would look like as an activity, not as a thing called a dream, but as an activity of dreaming. We would be giving everything all the meaning it has, yeah, unbeknownst to us as the dreamt, because we're taking it to be a real place. So when we show up, seemingly the stage is already set. All the props been given a reality. We think this is that and that's this, yes, and therefore we're off from there. But what happened? What set that up? Yeah, what set up the conditions that we take to be normal? Something set it up. Something produced it. Yeah, because we've been in a lot of different conditions in this life. Even with a broad stroke, there was when you were a baby, and then a kid, and then this and that. Yeah, and so the faith is the big mover and shaker. So the whole fear inventory is on that fact. Isn't it because self-reliance has failed us that we're in that anxiety, or they call it fear? So faith, put in that kind of system, a failed system, produces fear. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing to me. So there's faith before the fear. Yeah. And then people fear they have no faith. But in fact, faith is before the fear. Yeah. So I believe something and then I'm afraid. Yeah. I'm not afraid and then I believe, then I end up believing something. No. Well, that's true also, but there's a belief in something and then I'm afraid. So I believe that I'm going to lose what I have and not get what I want, as that basic statement in AA. So faith has a huge field day in there. Yeah. So there's faith that I'm going to lose what I have. So that makes me anxious today. Yes. I'm defensive. I feel I'm in competition. There's only so many pieces of the pie. I don't want to share it because I may lose it, my piece. Yeah. So it produces all these views. And then we come back to views, and each one of them are held as ours, which is a losing uh, position. And then there's faith that it's never going to work out. Yeah, there's faith that I can't stay sober. There's faith that this isn't going to work. I'm going to be destitute. I'm never going to be loved. How could an idea that's not true at this moment, yeah, I'm never going to be loved, have such an influence other than there was faith in it? Yeah. So, and when people say obviously they don't have faith, there's faith in that. They have faith that they don't have faith. You can't get before it because it's a force in this whole experience. Yeah, and so he's talking about, yeah, reason. All right, maybe you've reasoned that, hey, yeah, nothing's working. I got a feeling it has something to do with me drinking and using. Yeah. Yes, I came to an intellectual understanding I'm screwed, but it hasn't really done anything. There has to be a certain bottom that's not of the reason. It's somewhere else. Yeah. It's either it weakens that faith in reason, and then you're at that turning point. Yeah. And hopefully there's a sense of the innermost, which is not of reason. Yeah. And that innermost, there's a point of being convinced in there, and that changes a life because now faith is streamed in a different direction. Yeah. You've recognized, not through reason, but through grace, really, that what you're relying on is unreliable, that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. And that obviously I have a fucking role in it in somehow or another. And yeah, and that is the role of faith, really. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the difference in, that preamble, the part which is a hopeless state of mind and body, or a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yeah. When the mental presentation of where we're at in life tells us we're totally screwed, yeah, then man, that's a prime condition to have a drink in. Yeah, you say fuck it, basically. Yeah, but if you see that same hopeless state of mind and body, a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, a little light has entered. Yeah, a little light, and with a little willingness and a mix of little grace, things can change. Yeah. And then that faith, like it says, perhaps there's a better way. And let's turn the word trust into faith. Instead of having faith in the finite self, we'll have faith in the infinite. Yeah. Realizing that we can't have faith in the infinite as the finite self, because that's just more faith in the finite self. So we have to lose faith in the finite self, yeah, or lose interest in self, and then there's a gaining interest in the infinite. They have a prerequisite. You can't just gain interest in the infinite if you're in the act of being identified as self, because all the interest you would have in everything else would be used to reinforce the interest in self. Yeah. Fundamental to see that. When you try to get out of self, you're reinforcing the belief that you're in self. Yeah. Yet it's so unbearable, that seems to be the only option. Yeah. So people get loaded, they do this and they do that, because there's all the options have been disguised, and all you got is, I'm in some fucking thing and I want to get out. That wanting to get out reinforces the in. Yeah, self can't get out of self. So when self tries to get out of self, what does it do? It reinforces self can't get out of self. Yeah. So now you're in that which you want to get out of by trying to get out of it. So you can't have faith in self. It doesn't work. So if I have faith in self that I can turn my life over to the infinite, that's, your life is already turned over by the movement of faith to the finite. Yeah. So what's one to do? Tell the truth. Something pauses you on so many levels, and then the faith gets redistributed, and you do the work. Yeah. You do 4 through 9, and that redistribution gets, let's say, established. Just like it says, first you sincerely take the position of this reliance on something greater than yourself, then you get established there. So now that faith is in the habit of reinforcing the sobriety, not the fucking bondage of self. So it's not enough, on my experience, just to say, oh, I'm gonna cultivate faith in the infinite when I'm cultivating faith in the finite all day. Yeah, I need to tell the truth about that first thing. Just like when we talk about the new employer, it implies there was an old employer. That's gone on. We didn't even know we were being employed by something. Yeah. Now we know we're employed by the higher power, and we give it great gratitude and honor, but we don't apply that to the old employer. All the failure of the old employer we take to be our failure. Yeah. I did all that shit that the old employer directed me to do or used me to do. I did it all. That's the bondage to the old employer, isn't it? You're working now for Pepsi, but you wear your Coca-Cola jacket all day. The real allegiance is to Coca-Cola. Yeah. And then you say, oh, I'm going to be the greatest Pepsi worker as a Coca-Cola worker. It doesn't work. You're still working for Coca-Cola. So this is why we talk about the exact nature of the wrong. I didn't come up with that. I think there is no exact nature of the wrong. It's us, really, taking ourselves to be something else. That's could be capture it. And until we're clear about that, that something else is going to be the story of moving towards God. Yeah. So perhaps the better way has already been manipulated to turn back to the old way. Yeah. There's still a trusting the finite concerning the trusting the infinite. That's insane. Yeah. So, yeah, faith. I want to finish that thing on page 53, which I have. I haven't lost that page. So, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. Now you can know it. Yeah? without knowing it. All right, let's replace that with knowing it. Now I'm in the state of knowing that where I stand is based on a certain kind of faith. Oh yeah, it's true. For did we not believe in our own reasoning? Well, do I not believe in the presence of the higher power now? That's where the faith lies in this life. It does. Yeah. Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? No, I'm very clear that my ability to think is pretty damn compromised. Yeah. It's defined by the system that's failed. So the thinking directed by the failed system reinforces the failure of the system. Yeah. What was this but a sort of faith? Exactly. If I'm a, I mean, don't we make shit out of nothing? What could do that but faith? Yeah. I mean, you got nothing really to work with, and you still make a dilemma out of it. I mean, we're miracle workers in a weird way. We are. You don't like the quality of the miracles, but they're miracles. It's a miracle. I'm totally overriding today by thoughts about next week. That's a miracle, really. Not too many things can pull that off. Really. They find great peace without having that ability to pull it off. And we see envy the dog and shit like that. But in fact, that power, if surrendered over to a more steady hand, so to speak, can produce incredible results for ourselves and others. Yeah. Instead of a preoccupation with ourselves all fucking day, it can lend itself to an enrichment of ourselves and others in the living of a day. Faith, it's the same energy. It's going to manifest by what you put it in or what it's put in. So if it's put into the thought system, it produces mental anxiety. What else could that be? You can't, there is no next Tuesday, but there's faith in next Tuesday. So the faith in next Tuesday allows what Tuesday represents to us to seem to be so. All that is faith. Every step of that manufacture is faith. Yeah. I'm not talking about my faith or your faith, not like Catholicism. I'm talking about a force of mind called faith. Yeah. And as Jesus supposedly said, I'm sorry if you don't like Jesus. I like some of the statements. You know, faith the size of a mustard seed. So basically, it's not like I got a huge faith. It's just faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Yeah. In our case, faith the size of a fucking cantaloupe makes shit out of nothing. Really? You know what I mean? Wow. So, isn't it mostly what we were occupied when we were out there? We were occupied what was not happening, right? I mean, all the times on Coke when people were looking out underneath the door to see if no one was out there. I mean, most of the shit, they were extreme examples, but basically we lived under that trance mostly all day. We thought like when we were walking down the street super high, people thought we were great. They're saying, look at that fucking bum. He's all tweaked out. But you're thinking, oh, I'm a special character playing a bum. No, you look like a bum to everyone. But we have all this story going on. It's amazing, to insulate us from any possibility of being in contact with what's happening. Yeah. So all that, how could that occur without faith? There's got to be a force that can make false evidence appear real. There has to be a force there, because false evidence doesn't have the force to appear real. It's false. Yeah. Its inherent nature is false. Yeah. But it can appear real to us because we're reality. Yeah. We are the source of faith that it needs to appear real. We are. So it plays to us all day, and it presents stories all freaking day. And most of the time, without us knowing it, like it said, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. Yeah, all day. I'm brought to where I'm standing all day by a certain kind of faith. Now, what is that faith? Is it in finite self or is it infinite? Basically, that's, and you can tell the tree by its fruits. Yeah. So if there's been a successful transitioning from the faith in self into the infinite, you'll probably start seeing a lot more coincidences, intuitive thoughts. Yes, things will something work out. You'll be going through the book and the person say, and you'll page 60 and they'll say the topic today is page 60, and you'll see a lot of this stuff happening. It's an indication you're sitting under the right tree, so to speak. Yes? Yeah. So how am I going to know? You'll know. Just check it out over the months what happens. And then you start seeing you can face life successfully. All this shit starts to happen. And hopefully we grow, not in faith, but we grow in the direction of faith, which is to the infinite, from the infinite, instead of to finite self, from finite self. Yeah, hopefully that happens. The same amount of faith, it doesn't matter. It's what it's put in. Yeah. And so we need knowing that, and knowing that I can't deliver the faith from finite self to the infinite. That would be more faith than finite self. I live this lifestyle. I get into the habit of being sober. And all the while I'm just dealing with what's happening today. There's a transfer of faith from the finite self to the infinite. Yeah. And you and I are the better for it. I could say, maybe 33 years would give you a longer view of it, but basically exactly what was happening the first few days of sobriety is still happening. Yeah. There's a lessening, there's a losing of interest in self, because it's not a thing. You lose interest in all the activities that reinforce this idea of self. Yeah. And you're gaining interest in what you can contribute, life, others, shit like that. Yeah, that's basically the indication the faith is in the right direction. Yeah. And then when the narrative, the K-Paul gets your attention, and then the faith gets back there, there's tons of skillful means to cut off the connection and just reinforce the same flow. Yeah. So that it can continue. And then it gets a momentum, just like the selfing had a momentum. Now the trust in the infinite has a momentum. And it gets harder and harder to break or to swerve or to misdirect. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. Then that's like when the problem doesn't exist for you. You're just living as if you don't have alcoholism. Really. Don't say it, but I mean, you're living as if there's no alcoholism. Hallelujah. Yeah, so, yeah, faith to me is, I don't know, I think it's the big mover and shaker of the whole place, really. Yeah, and faith in the faith in the old employer would be having the new employer as the same old employer. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so important that not knowing it, most of our attempts to go this way or that way is faith in self, really. Yeah. Self's telling us, oh, we're never going to get this. We're never going to be sober or whatever. Yeah. Faith in the mental activity. And then it produces a fuck it, and then people go out. Yeah. And then here, we see what happens. Like when people go out, a lot of them die. It's not like, I lost $20 at the fucking market. No, you know, shit hits the fan. Flamboyant shit, heavy shit, and it affects so many other people. Yeah, and yeah. So if you see self can't get out of self, not from self, you'll see how completely unreliable it is, because it will never be able to tell the truth about the failedness of its own system. It just won't. Yeah. That has to happen in the innermost or somewhere other than from the head, because the head can be convinced and unconvinced like that. It has no staying power. Yeah. It doesn't believe truly, just like it says the biggest delusion is this idea, even confronted with tons of evidence of your unmanageability, that if you could only manage better, it would work out. What an insane, that's a huge faith, isn't it? I mean, you can't even read the tea leaves. You're just like, oh yeah, but I'm just going to work harder. You don't understand. It's your managing that's making it unmanageable. Yeah, whatever. So, want to open it up. I know
Yeah.
faith can be vague, but uh, I don't feel it's vague at all, to tell you the truth. I feel it's like all the blueprints that take form are from faith, really. Yeah. Look at what happens, some hmm, yeah, yeah. All right. Want to open it up?
Yeah, good deal. Thanks, Paul. That was great. So if you got any questions, raise your hands. Michael and I will keep an eye on the participants. Anybody got anything they want to say? This was huge for me when I first heard you talk about this, because it put language to something that was under the surface, and it was part of it's part of what we read, and where it says crushed by a self-imposed crisis. I always saw that, as I did it to me, rather than no, the condition is what that's how I became alcoholic. And then when I went through the steps, how they capitalized reason like you did, like that reason. And then when they had that defining point, like you said, when you read this, you said, without knowing it, haven't we been brought here by a certain kind of faith? Oh, oh yeah, I have. Well, right after that, reason's not capitalized. Now it's back in place where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that he wrote it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of my favorite sayings that I heard you say in one of the meetings, it was a while ago, he says, it's not thoughts that ruin your day, it's faith in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Faith in thoughts. Yes. Of course, because if thoughts ruined your day, they would ruin everyone's day, right?
Yeah.
If thoughts had an inherent ability to ruin your day, they would be ruining everyone's day. But they don't. They're given meaning through faith. Yeah. So you have faith in one thought, and then 30 other thoughts similar to it hatch, and now you're sort of on a train of thought, and then you're on the tracks of the train of thought, and now you're getting run over by the train of thought. Yeah. Yeah. All of that's brought about by faith. And the faith really is rooted in that I'm the thinker. The thoughts don't get their flavor. You give them the flavor by my. The my is the biggest weight of the thought. These thoughts are about me and they're mine. That's, I mean, that's immediately you're like a half-ton pickup with a ton of weight. You're outmatched. Yeah. And then you try to swim out of your thoughts, which is a thought, and then you just, yeah, yeah. I was seeing it last night. I was dreaming, yeah, dreaming, sort of awake dreaming, and it's very mundane. And I was, the Serenity Prayer, accept the things we cannot change. any love affair you have with any sports thing is totally based on false premises that it could have been different if that guy would have just hit that ball or that. But in fact, that's not how life actually works, yes. If something was supposed to happen, it did, and if it didn't, it wasn't. Yeah. But my whole entertainment with sports is based on it could have been different. Now, how are you going to convince that head that's completely in faith of that possibility? You've got to see you're not that. You can't change it. Yeah. It's just like people try to change. They think it would be better if they saw that there's no choice in life. So they take retreats about having no choice. But the the system itself is built on this idea that it's your life. Yeah, that you did it and it's coming about because you haven't done it or you've done it. Yeah. You're not going in there and tinkering with that and changing it. That's the whole thing duplicating. So you think you have a choice about that. But in fact, if you see you're not that, then you can travel lighter through it all. Instead of trying to travel lighter by tinkering it, which just usually makes it fucking worse. Yes? Yeah. You just you take another step back and you see, hey, I might not be the person who thinks like this. Yeah. Because there's no person that thinks. It's just thinking about a person. Yeah. And then, all right, that's the way out. The way out isn't rehabilitating the system, it's to see that it's failed. And where do you really see the failure? It's in the production of Kurt and Paul. This image, this mental image that holds itself no matter what evidence occurs. Yeah. That mental image is not of me. It really isn't. To go back to it being a spiritual condition. Yeah. And in the spiritual condition, things are seen clearly. You don't have to keep buying glasses to make your mental vision a little better. From what we are, you see things clearly. Yeah. You see blue is blue and red is red. Yeah. Yeah. You recognize the futility of trying to get out of self as self. It's just fucking impossible. And then something happens. Something does for you what you can't do for yourself. It does. You come to a wit's end, so to speak. Yeah. With reason and all this and all that. And you realize the Urban Renewal Project has no end date. Yeah. Because that thing that's trying to be renewed can't be. It's just the same old, same old. Yeah. So, I mean, on a base level, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And to me, to me, the big awakening was a very rude awakening, which is, hey, you know, I can't pull this off. I'm outmatched completely. I can't think myself out of it. I can't do myself out of it. I can't deny myself out of it. I can't distract myself out of it. Basically, all the coping mechanisms or ways of dealing with shit can't deal with this shit. Yeah, there's got to be a reckoning, you know? Like it says, is there a God or isn't there? You know, it's either one or the other. It's not like, oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah. So, uh, yeah. It's funny though. Yeah. My whole irateness as a Yankee fan that the Red Sox are winning is based on it could be different. Ultimately, it can't. Am I going to send Paul to a 52-week retreat? No, I'm just going to see I'm not Paul. Because no matter how much you turn Paul into something else, it'll revert back once the shit hits the fan. it goes back to the old programming, no doubt. Yeah. So why not see you're not that, please? Yes. That's why we do this with alcoholism. At least see alcoholism as some foreign pathogen that's been introduced to the system that you're relying on. That's a starting point. Yeah. Then hopefully you realize that system itself is sort of foreign. This idea of being a long lasting, independent, separate thing precludes that it is the dominant condition, not a spiritual one, which I believe the spiritual condition is dominant. And then there's an appearance of things and bodies. Yeah, I do. That's my belief anyway. So how are things gonna work when I have it ass backwards, when I have things before spirit? How is spirit going to have a huge influence in this life if all my faith as this thing is in things? That inner resource is going to be unsuspected for quite a while. And when it is suspected, it will be given my meaning. I won't be open to having revelations of its meaning. Yeah, I'll give it my meaning, which will keep it a very limited resource. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So this is about this is not about Paul. It will get better, but it is not about Paul getting better. It's just questioning Paul. See if that isn't seeing Paul is held together by faith in a failed system, really. It's a mental imagery, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't remember. I remember Paul by pictures in a bank of memories. Yeah, and then when I'm worried about Paul, I'm worried about Paul as that picture in a bank of memories. So it's just a huge projection from this mental condition, which supposedly is where the problem resides in the mind. Yeah. So I believe it does. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it says it in the book. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I would say the main problem is there's a huge amount of faith in something that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
tell the truth. Maybe that's true for you. Why don't you try it? See how it falls. See how the chips get redistributed. Yeah. See that you can't get out of self as self. That would be faith in self. Come to the reckoning. Just sit there. It doesn't have to look like a cliff with the wind blowing and, rough seas below and you either got to jump or not. You can do it at, the parking lot of 7-Eleven. Just stop and just say, hey, what am I believing during the day mostly? The head or the head's idea of an infinite power, which would be the head again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Do we have any hands?
Hey, the thing is, it's okay to find that you have complete belief in the head because you're not that. See, the head has manufactured a you, and that you doesn't want to tell the truth that it has complete faith in the head. No, tell the fucking truth. You don't want to fucking get really better. You want you would, but you don't really want to do much. You just rather yeah. Just tell the fucking truth about the situation. You're not that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. This is about questioning the act of being identified as self. That's what it is. So if I'm not a self, then all of self's ideas of how it's going to get better don't apply to me. I'm already inherently okay before self gets better or not better. Yeah. My freedom from the bondage of self doesn't come after self, it comes before it. Yeah. It's before it. Yeah. I have faith in that. That's what gives me relief from thoughts. The faith is already directed to that which is before thoughts. So therefore, there's somewhat of a release from the bondage of thoughts because the faith is already put somewhere else. Yeah. I've seen the thought systems as failed completely. So, yeah, there's working thoughts. Yeah, I know how to put a nut on a fucking bolt or something. Yeah. But I don't, then when the psychological aspect, well, you suck at putting bolts on nuts and goes off. I don't have much interest in that because you know, I've heard that school before thousands of times. Yes, I've lost interest in it. I'm interested in the bolt and the nut. Yes, but what, what it means, what it makes me, doesn't interest me much anymore. Yeah, yeah. So there is a freedom from the bondage of self. It doesn't come after self. It's before it. Yeah, it's an inherent freedom. It is. Yeah, because with even in this your own life, if you want to call it that, when you were a baby, there was no sense of self for quite a while. You had no sense of ownership. You were shitting and you didn't care, and you weren't getting embarrassed by anything. You were just yelling for what you wanted. There was no fucking, yeah. And then you'd be super bummed out, and a second later, joyful because there was no story that had to be maintained. It was just flopping around and like that. Yeah. And then suddenly something developed, yes. And then one day, before you were just running around and shit like that. And then one day you entered a room and it was accompanied by thought. And then suddenly everything you did was accompanied by thought. Yeah. And now it was sort of, you were uncomfortable playing because you thought maybe Wayne's playing better than me or fucking weird shit starts mutating. And then it went on and it grew, didn't it? It grew. Yeah. And then before we knew it, we were fucking irritable, restless, discontent. We couldn't put our finger on why, and it didn't even matter in a way. And then we were introduced to beer or something or marijuana, and we went after it. Who wouldn't? It gave us a hope for relief to get out of what? Self. Yeah. And then, of course, some of us, we have that tendency to go extreme, and then that which we took us. Yeah. And then something grew, and the thing that we wanted to get out of grew even stronger, the idea of self. So we were enslaved to that idea of self by the constant hope to get out of it. It had us reeled in completely. It played with us, gave us a little line, and reeled us back, and we were played like a fish in water. Yeah. Without knowing what was going on, truly. Yeah. And then after all this shit hits the fan and we come into recovery, we still carry that past around as if we did every freaking thing that we did under the influence of alcohol and drugs. What an insane extra weight. And you think 33 years will get you farther away from it. It probably won't if you're identified as the doer, then you believe you did all that shit. Yeah. You can't see the truth that something took you over and used you for transportation. That's where the relief lies. Yeah. Mm.
Hey, Walter, you want to come in here? You got a question? Walter put something in the chat.
No. It was merely a joke. Sorry.
No, it was a good one. Yeah. Did you see it? Did you see it, Paul?
No, I don't see the chat. If I do, I don't read
Yeah,
it.
well, don't take it serious, Kurt.
I thought it was great.
Okay. Well, I can answer my own question. You cannot get out of self as a non-self.
Yeah. Do you hear that?
Yes, but like in a way, the non-self doesn't need to get out of self. because you see there isn't one. There's an activity that says you are one, and you will be one, and you were one, but it's not true. Yeah, yeah. So
So what is this activity, Paul? Because I hear you loud and clear. I hear this message. You're the best. Okay, let's put it like this. Then again, the self is just taking over, and I have to listen the message again. Either I pick up a book, read a few pages, listen, put on some old audio. This morning I was listening to old audio 30 years ago, and I think, my God, why couldn't I hear this 30 years ago? It's so clear. And then the thinking comes in again and makes a whole bloody story out of it. And again and again and again.
Walter, look at the progress. Before, you didn't have any way just to go back. You didn't. A few pages of a book wouldn't do it. It would have been 2 quarts of vodka. Turning on a switch for an audio. Can you see the progress in that? That you're at least in the vicinity of the solution. Yeah, you don't need like a fucking, a message from a star that gets there 8,000 years too late. You're right here. So
I don't need a retreat anymore from a week.
That's going to keep improving in a way. And there'll be less and less time seemingly spent in more and more places. Yeah. It'll be just, yeah. So I feel that is incredible. Hey, if one of my answers to a very uncomfortable, irritable life was, all I got to do is listen to some jamoke on a video for a few minutes or read just a couple of pages, I say, fucking, that's an incredible solution to my problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it like this. Thank you.
You gotta go fucking get loaded or something.
Yeah.
See, I know it
Exactly.
doesn't sound, because we want it all, but the point is, let's appreciate. Hey, I can, if I'm not feeling well or something, I can just go to the Serenity Prayer, and it seems to change how I feel.
Exactly.
Fucking, that's incredible improvement, eh?
Yeah. Stupid again, some stupidity that I don't see that. From what a miracle.
Stupidity, it's just a drive. The head has a drive, and so it doesn't see the scenery because it's so focused on trying to get somewhere. But this is about smelling the roses and the coffee. So, Jesus Christ, man. Could you imagine when you're out there, someone said, "Here, just read these few pages in this book." You would have just thrown the fucking book at the person.
I ridiculed all my old friends.
Let's put on this video. And you don't even have to, just for 5 minutes. Yeah. That's incredible. Shit. People would love to have that. Hey, and to have it work. That's what I love about AA meetings. Before the situations occurred, is in most cases for me, they always worked. However I felt better or more optimistic when I left an hour later. It was incredible. And to know that you're prone to being changed by just 1 hour during the day, fucking man, that's awesome. Where you couldn't be moved, you couldn't be moved by 5 policemen from your position earlier. Now you just go to an AA meeting and things, I feel, or you help someone else. Hey, I think that has vast improvement. Yeah. All we need to do is get into the vicinity of the grace of the presence. Yeah. And I mean, we could sit here all day and speak about the joy of what's absent in our lives. Yeah. Because amazing that we can sit at a Zoom without fucking doing 800 freaking things. Yeah. Yes, oh, I have no time for this. Give me the edited version of it. You're fucked. Okay, go out. And then, no, all this stuff that we're demonstrating now was brought about by a relinquishment of a dominance by this mental condition called self, and alcoholism. Fuck, great. Yeah. That I would say that's a sign of faith being redirected. Hallelujah. Why would it stop? Yeah.
And look at the benefit of your statement. The benefit of your statement, Walter, and what it evoked. I mean, geez, the
It's all,
conversation.
I mean, really, if I
Yep.
felt like if you had that and you were open to it when you were 11 or 12, I wouldn't have been arrested like fucking 30 times. I would have been able to
Tell me,
think,
Paul. Tell me. Yeah.
it's and now that I'm not arrested, I think, oh, who cares about getting arrested? I cared a lot about getting arrested when I got arrested. It sort of sucked. Set off court dates and other shit. It was like a super drag. So
At least something was happening, no? I mean,
yeah.
this is quite boring, isn't it?
Well, there you go.
You
This
eat, you
is why-
sleep, you discrete. What's left to do?
now we're getting to it. Now we're getting to it. Yes. Yeah. See, the head, first of all, the head is agitated. It doesn't like peace. Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't want to stand still.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't want to be, it wants to become or unbecome, but it's not into
Yep.
being. Yeah. It finds no rest there.
Yep.
We have to see it's not us, because if it isn't, uh,
Yeah.
to me, it's just another form of bondage. Bondage of self has like a lot of different it's like thousands of different RPMs, 33, 45, 70 something. It plays differently on the mental machine, but they're all got the same theme. It's a bondage of self.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, just one guy I used to like said, "Hey, we're addicted to the boredom that looks exciting." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I'm into the excitement that looks boring. Yeah, it's true. I am. Yeah,
Yep.
completely. Yeah, completely. Hallelujah.
That's that position of neutrality.
Yeah, the position of neutrality. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I would not love.
I'm happy, Walter, today because again, you reminded me of gratitude, which is awesome. Yeah, because it's hard to be grateful after a while about what's absent because it's absent. Yeah, but if it was up your ass right now, you'd be fucking flipping out. So it's incredible that your ass there's a gatekeeper there and self can't go up it anymore.
Love the metaphors.
I'm all for it. Yeah, the head's always. Let's move on to the next topic. But you have to realize every topic. The one topic is the underlying one, which is this idea of self. Yeah, and agitation cannot produce stillness. It's just more agitation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the disease that's in the mind cannot enjoy peace of mind. It can't. It doesn't have the ability to. Yes, because
Yeah.
it's too moved by time. So even if there was peace of mind, it would say, "Well, there won't be tomorrow or whatever." Yeah. So it can't enjoy shit. So it has you moving for these supposed goals, but it doesn't want you to arrive at any of those goals. It just wants you to keep looking and looking and looking and looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's slavery, really. It truly is. People,
Yeah.
they go sit for one day. They do a 1 day meditation retreat, and they get a sense, hey, I'm pretty good. But then I've got to do a 3 day retreat, then a week retreat, then 2 week retreat, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just like you're being whipped. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I know the drill.
Thanks, buddy. Any other hands? Oh, yeah, we got one. Oliver.
Oliver.
Hello. Hi there. Thank you so much, Paul. Another great episode. I really enjoyed it. I got a question about, when we're talking about overly identifying ourselves with the disease. I guess we all have friends or acquaintances in or maybe outside of the fellowship, with that we clearly see, that is the case, right? So I got a friend here in fellowship, and she's in pretty difficult situation right now. She's being suicidal. She is waiting for treatment to be confirmed, and I happen to know that she is, let's put it that way, under the influence of the, again, let's say, wing or a niche in AA that kind of amplifies a little bit, that kind of puts an accent to, the disease that we are kind of living every day, and the phrases, I have this alcoholism and I have to face it today, and it's kind of emphasis that's, in my opinion, overly emphasized, and I think it emphasizes the identification actually with the disease, right? Which I don't think it's very, in the end, that it does. I mean, some people seem to like it and kind of go with it, and kind of makes them sort of being serious and rigid about the program. But some people definitely, I don't think they take it well, and I think this person is one of those. And I don't even have a question. I suppose, I can only be an example, posit that there is a slightly different view and a slightly different way to it, way of looking at it, right? And hoping she will see it, not even gently nudging or subtly, just inclining to her, with words, with statements that maybe you shouldn't listen this, maybe you shouldn't listen to what I say, and see how cool and good I sound right now. And so but I am in some sort of, I guess, wondering, actually, can I do something else? And
Well, if you have contact with her, your job is like to put your foot on the dance floor. You're not the choreographer, yeah? So you just go there and see what comes up. Yeah, it's like holding a space, more like, if you've gotten that feeling of a pause in your life since recovery, yeah, where something just stops and there's a nice, to have that to me, that's like holding the space. So you're there and then you see what happens, yeah. You may say something you weren't thinking of saying, and her response, yeah. And I feel like, I do believe in those little vignettes. There's a divine choreographer, and see what happens. Obviously, it's pretty obvious I'm not prepared, but, my preparation is not being prepared really over the years. Yeah, yeah. So just yeah, and people have their destiny with this shit. Some people I found early on that sometimes you're not serving by keeping people from their bottoms. Yeah, just and I see my own case. My own case was it looked pretty damn hopeless from outside for sure, and yet somehow things changed, and here I am. So I don't think that was a special exemption. I feel it's a possibility that's available to everybody. So you never know. Yeah, what's going to trigger what?
Right. Yeah.
But hey, I know tons of people, or I used to more. Uh, I've never been, I don't think I've been in a depression in my life or suicidal. So I don't know what it's like. I do know that there are different volumes in the head of different people, and I can't do it justice, because if you hear something at volume 4, it's a lot different than hearing it at volume 12. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, I've never been in that volume 12 level, I don't think. But it seems like when I look at certain people, they are. Yeah. They're very extremely depressed, or something is very dark. And it feels like it's influencing every second, a lot of every second, greatly. I have no idea. I don't have an experience of that. Yeah. I
Mhm.
don't. So, uh, but I do have an experience of the principles of AA and the truth of stuff. And I think that overrides no matter what the volume is, really. Yeah, I do. I think it has the power to override whatever the volume is. If it does or doesn't, I don't, it's up to what's happening, but I have a faith in that. But I don't have an experience or an intimacy with it. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just
Well,
like I don't have an intimacy, I've never had any biological kids, right? No kids. My girlfriend has them, and her relation with them is rooted in that biological connection,
right.
and which I don't have. So I don't, that's the understanding I have, is I don't have an understanding what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if I'm with a person, I'm not in the outcome business. I'm just sitting there, and whatever's going to be is going to be. Yeah, I have a role, and then I'm open to be played through it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, she's been lately like pretty constantly relapsing. I don't think she's drinking heavily, but she's constantly relapsing. I personally think it's because really she's sort of blaming herself because of the identification with that relapser, right? With that, yeah, with the disease altogether. That is something that she has, that's a part of her, like integral part, which is, in my opinion, uh, overly great degree of identification, right? And
Yeah. See, but my experience, Oliver, if it wasn't the relapsing, it would be something else.
mhm,
That head would grab onto and run. Yeah.
mhm.
Yes. It's not a selective only thing, I don't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The head doesn't give a shit about its vehicle. It jumps in any one of them. Not specific. I don't think it's truly specific, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the head identification with anything, relapse or stuff like that, the faith in those identifications produce effects. Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah. But your faith in this, in the process, your faith in what you mentioned, principles, is really inspiring right now, I would say.
Well, I tell
For
you,
me.
because when I came in, there was a lot of realizations for that level of reasoning. And I saw that all my strategies in life were completely ass backwards. I mean, completely how I looked at things. It was amazing that I was alive with those views. So the principles of AA, rooted in first, you got realized you're not that which is playing God, but the reliance on this higher power and all the other adjoining principles. I needed a replacement for, my North Star when I was out there was fucking insane to follow. So recovery gave me a new North Star, so I could my life maps could be could be uh, proportioned from that being led by the North Star. So yeah, yeah. So I'm speaking out of experience. So I have a huge faith in the principles of AA. You know, yeah. I have one thing. I don't believe you have to have it to give it away. I believe if you're willing to give it away, you'll have it. That's my feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's good. That's
Thanks.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys. Jill. Jill's got her hand up.
Jill. Oh yeah, I know Jill.
Hi, Paul.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm just lately, I've been spending a lot of time with somebody who is newly clean and sober so he's been taking cocaine, and I've witnessed his extreme paranoia. So to him, the ideas he gets in his head are very, very real to him. And I've heard you often say that when we identify with self, we make shit out of nothing all day. We go about making shit out of nothing all day. I just wondered if, like me, I've just suddenly realised that that's a little bit like paranoia, but just at a less extreme extent.
Yes.
The identifying with self is like paranoia because we believe our own bullshit. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Well, yes, there's degrees or volume levels, things come up. Yes. So, yeah, here in this event, there's degrees. So something can have like 2 pounds of force, some can have 30 pounds of force. Yes. Some can have a momentum of a heavy rock from a big hill or a little pebble on a curb. Yes. So there is degrees that are going on. That's why it's difficult to truly know what's happening, because it's all seemingly so. It's all things are being amplified and muted in their little orchestra pit that may not be amplified and muted the way they are in your orchestra pit. Yes, by who's ever leading the fucking orchestra. So this is the point. But the principles are just that. The degrees are experiential, but the principle is the same. So the reliance on self produces these certain patterns, or let's say algorithms, that produce this kind of stuff. An extreme version would be paranoia. A lesser version would be an ill ease and a nervousness about what's not happening. Yeah, they're on the same pole, but there's different degrees. Yeah, yeah. So this is
Yeah.
well, this is the traveling lighter. Yeah, so you get moved not just on one phase, but all the phases get somewhat muted, or like the guy or the woman, the higher power is on the soundboard, and it's changing the music you're hearing being played by the band. Yeah. So something is doing that. So life is sounding a lot different. And so your reaction or your response to it is different. Yeah. Not right away. way, you've got to learn that you're not threatened all day, and then you get out of that, previous historical anxiety, and now you're responding to how you are now, which is okay, and you're in good hands and shit like that. There's a period that things have to change because your old habit is to be worried about how it's going to be like it was. Yeah. Well, that's done now. So basically, that's the reason why, you just trust this process, because it takes you through these phases of breaking out from the old gravitational pull of self into this new gravitational pull of the infinite. Yeah. Yeah. So then I have history, I have memories of that extreme paranoia. Thank God, they're memories, so I can empathize and I can understand, but I'm not affiliated with that experience. I don't co-sign it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's degrees. Yeah. Let's say that, those things at the amusement park when you have a big mallet and you hit the thing and then it rings the bell. So that would be self going up the ass of self. I mean, bing, if it hits it, it went way up there. Usually it's only like they're on this level now, yes. So it's getting near the ass, it's getting close to the ass, but it's not up the ass. Up the ass itself, there's not much possibility. You need a divine proctologist or something to pull you out. But after a while, the whack, you lose interest in it, and the bell's never rung anymore. Yeah, hopefully a day at a time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't you think though? Don't you think, Paul? I mean, that kind of like amphetamine psychosis or something like that. It stabilizes. There's a natural healing process when we get sober that there's a balancing effect that happens eventually, where you go through. I mean, I remember when I was addicted to opiates, somebody said, "Oh, it's going to be 6 months before you balance out," and I remember thinking to myself, "Ah, that's bullshit. It's only going to take a week." But there was a 6-month period of where the pendulum swung from one extreme to the other, and it was chemically induced. It wasn't induced by So that extreme will stable out
Well,
usually with people.
usually, but sometimes people went too far
Yeah,
and they still have the scars of past addiction. Yeah.
yeah,
That may take longer than, yeah,
yeah,
I feel.
yeah.
Yes, especially that kind of stuff. The amphetamines are really, they wreak havoc on the action figure. I, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but hey, you can be, when I was first sober, I was just pulling my hair all the time. And
Mhm.
then any talks I did in the early days, you'd hear banging because I was always banging my leg or my hand. It took years for that shit to change. That was all from the shooting coke. You'd be like this all the time. So there I was, just like fucking, yeah. So yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Well, I don't see any more hands. Anybody got any more hands? It's quarter till. What do you think, Paul?
It's a grateful day to be sober, eh?
Yeah, it is very much so.
Jesus Christ.
I appreciate the
I run over
opportunity
by
to
a
help.
car, but I'm still mobile. Yes.
Yeah,
Still mobile. I can still get around. Hallelujah.
yeah,
Very
yeah. They're
good.
shooting. They're shooting They're shooting movies here. I told Kaiser they're shooting. They've got our whole building shut down. We've got all the trucks out here. They're doing some kind of movie for Netflix out here. So it's
Oh,
amazing. It's this quiet in the office. So
oh, that's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Well, hey, let's say goodbye then, eh?
All right, buddy.
thank you, Kurt, for a wonderful job, and everyone who sets this all up and everything. Yeah, it's very.
You're not going to say goodbye.
One minute
This
you want to talk, I'm
wouldn't
just
go
renting.
on- this wouldn't be going on without all of us going it on. Yeah. So, yeah, it's great. All right, we got Paul from the UK. There he
Thank you,
is.
Paul.
Yes. Nice to
Thank
see you, bro. Jill, thank you for that. Yes. Yeah. Anu. I always love to say anew because I like the word anew. Yeah. It's like a new fresh scent. Anew. Yeah. All right. We got Connor from Dublin. Yes, Connor. That which is being presented as you by the mental processes is not. Hallelujah. PK from Long Island. Woohoo! We got Jacob over there in Seattle. Nice to see you, Jacob. Thank you. Tommy from Ireland. We got Alex from the Hudson Valley. Nice to see you, Alex. We've got Kristen. Kristen's gone back to her white, but she's outside again. Looks like she's ready to play 18 holes of golf or something. I don't know. She's doing something. A lot of terry cloth on there. It's nice. We got Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira. Mickey. Nice to see you, Mickey. Thanks for sticking with us. Stefan, on having never left. The feeling I always get when I see you. Ruby Rose. Always a pleasure, Ruby. There we go. Do some sacrifices over to the wall there, honey. Yes. Kaiser, Los Angeles now. All right. Yeah. Is that a hope or is it actually your true location?
Yeah, I'm out here while working, and I'll go back to Minnesota soon.
All right. We got